Saddle up your horses.
Patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast. It is playoff football. We might have a few talking points. Obviously, we had a special episode on Sunday after the Denver Broncos clinched. Yes, it feels so sweet to say clinched a playoff berth by shutting out those Kansas City Chiefs. So we are going to be talking about all of that, and I'm sure our guest will be, having some topics, of course. As you can tell, he is a very famous person, amongst, the Broncos social media realm. Alec rejoins Manly Broncos. It's been a while.
It's been a bit.
Welcome back.
Thanks, guys.
But how you doing? First, full disclosure, by the way, Alec was at the game on Sunday, so you won't just be getting the experience from me. You'll be getting it from his fan experience too.
Yeah, primary source here.
Yeah. And obviously we have the full house, right? We have the full house of Brandon Miller over there on the top right corner, and Matty Mulls over there on the top left. Gentlemen, where to begin? Other than, it's been, I think I said it, me and Brandon were talking about it on Sunday, but like, it's been 9 years, man, 9 years. And we are finally, in the playoffs. Alec, you're our guest. So, why don't you lead it off first? I feel like the best way to explain how we're feeling is to explain first, like, just how long these 9 years have been, the tumultuous and trials and tribulations that's been this 9 years, and then to kind of get to the crescendo of it all, and that is shutting out the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's I saw something right after the game that it's the good old kind of look back, like what happened in that 9 years in your personal life since it, right? And I was like, damn. All right. So the cliff notes are got engaged, got my undergrad, got engaged, got married, bought our first house, sold that first house, bought our second house, got pregnant, had our daughter, and she's now 3.5. So it's a lot of life kind of changes that occurred over the last 9 years. And yeah, I mean, hell, even the last playoff appearance, Super Bowl 50, was my wife's birthday. So married into a Bronco family. Looking back on it, the Elway's curse kicked off on her birthday. And it's been a trip. I mean, I would say that being an optimistic person in general, it's truly bittersweet when it comes to sports, just because I can talk myself into anything. Yeah. And I think most of us can probably agree with that. Not having to do that this year is pretty tasty. It's pretty nice. Not having to be like, oh, it's week 10 and I finally am being pessimistic. It's like, nah, guys, we got week 19. That's wild. It's wild.
Obviously we'll be talking about Mr. 5 letters, Bo Nix himself, but it's also, gratifying of not doing a mock draft from here on out, with a quarterback on it,
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that means.
Except for some, trolls here and there. Brandon, I you and I kind of talked a little bit about it on Sunday. Matty, take us through, everything that you were going through, watching that game. I'm sure a lot of emotions, and which included your fandom, your Broncos fandom, over the course of these 8 to 9 years, and specifically how great it feels just overall for, obviously, not just Manely Broncos podcast or even the MHRT network, but everybody that does content now, like we are now part of like playoff football and can do playoff content for the around the Denver Broncos and everything. But just kind of take us through your side of things and everything that you were going through emotionally with that Kansas City Chiefs game.
I mean, it was expected that we were going to handle business. That's what everybody said. They pretty much discounted the game. They wrote it off, right? Like they said, okay, like the Chiefs are just getting the Broncos in because they don't want to play the Bengals. Mind you, the Bengals would still have to get through the team that we're going to probably talk about later in this too. So like that wasn't a foregone conclusion, but the fact that we handled business in the fashion we did and right away, I mean, Boomer sooner born, sooner bred. And when I'm gone, I'll be sooner dead. Benito's been a stud, but you could argue potentially the MVP of our team of late has been Marvin Mims and what he's brought to the table in the return game and offensively being able to start off with just that pass to him for the tutty. And we never looked back from that point. I mean, that really set the tone for what we were going to experience for the rest of the game. Now we can't always expect a double bounce to Vele for a touchdown, but like it proved that like over the course of the last 9 years that we've had to go through and all the things that went against us, that finally the ball was literally bouncing our way and we were going to right the ship here. So great to see Sooners producing for the Broncos. It's like a wet dream for me, two worlds colliding. Like it's beautiful. I've had this bottle for several years now, from Breckenridge. I was like, when good things happen, good things happen in Broncos country, I'm going to drink out of this. And you see that there's still a ton left. So, I've got to make up for some lost time, and who knows, maybe I'm drinking more out of the bottle after the game on Sunday. But over the course of the last 9 years, my wife and I got married in 2014. So right before things turned for us. And then we won the Super Bowl. We've had 3 kids. They're 5, 3, and 4 months old. We've moved. We just moved to Nebraska. We sold that house, moved to Texas, sold that house, and have moved back to Nebraska, being stationed in the military. So being able to finish almost half of my career since the Broncos have been in the playoffs. Almost done with my bachelor's degree, 40 years old next month. And so it took me a while to get that done, but I guess the Broncos wanted to help get me across the finish line there too. And then working on some certifications and transitioning out of the military once I retire. So it's like all these things kind of culminating. Yeah. It's like there's a pause there. And now personally, professionally, as my sports fandom, there's a new chapter in a lot of different phases of my life. And so I can certainly drink to that. Let's go Broncos country.
Yeah. And obviously, with Matty being in Nebraska, he's got to compete with Sayre now, in terms of the pumping out kids. So, but I just think
Sayre, Phillip Rivers, Bettinger for sure.
Yeah. Obviously being on the MHRT network, it's going to be tough to beat Mundungus Creevy or Mike Clark, if you will, on the network, who does the 5280 podcast with me. So it's going to be a bit, hard to beat him. But speaking of Phillip Rivers, if you will, one player, that was compared to Phillip Rivers is nonetheless Bo Nix, a little bit. He obviously, as everybody knows, if you had a chance to do some homework and study on him, he learned a little bit from Phillip Rivers in terms of some of the game and playing quarterback. This season has been a ride. And that's putting it lightly a little bit. Obviously with the national media, everything that has been transpiring from national media, local media. And that comes from naysayers of not just Bo Nix, but naysayers of the Broncos, naysayers of Sean Payton. And what a nice even culmination for Bo Nix himself to put an exclamation mark on a terrific season. Now, you got to call it for what it is. I mean, it was a terrific season for what he's been able to put forth. I mean, you look at the projected stat line, Alec, for what ESPN had. I mean, it was like 3,200 yards or something like that, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and like around 190 rushing yards. So definitely discounting the fact that he is also a running quarterback. I think it's safe to say, that Nix has surpassed, even the expectations of those that were really high on him, like all four of us, and even the ones that were down on him. Like, he has surpassed every single expectation.
I will say this: I've got a couple University of Washington fans, including Boggins, and seeing UW fans praising Bo hits real good. Now, going back to that, and again, kind of echoing what Matty brought up in terms of worlds colliding, being an Oregon fan, and then confirmation bias, everything hitting, and not just him being like stable, like him actually like just being the dude. Like, there's no doubt he is the dude. And like, I'm sure all three of you saw that little postseason motivational Instagram video that he dropped, and that made me want to just run through a wall. I was like, he just has it, man. There's guys that do, and there's guys that don't. And Bo's got it. Just as straightforward as that, and it's a trip, and it's stat lines be damned in terms of just what you're going to project. He exceeded every expectation. Like, you can pull out EPA adjustments all you want to try to tear down games. But at the end of the day, dude threw 29 touchdown passes, ran for 4, and caught 1.
Legit caught 1, not Josh Allen.
Right.
No, like bodied up a DB.
Yeah.
Like
Cortland Sutton, basically. Like.
Oh yeah. And 100, perfect passer rating Cortland Sutton as well. But yeah, man, it's been just a trip. It's fun to see things fall in line. And probably, and I know that, Matty brought up that we were supposed to win this game. Like, everybody's talking about this and that, but some people said it was going to be a lot closer. They're like that, like everybody that took the plus 10.5 for KC sucks to suck, because that was just from the get-go, first drive, boom. Like, being that was my first time seeing Bo that close.
What a game to go to, man.
In person. Dude's got a bigger arm than people think.
Yeah.
In 27 degrees, that ball was flying.
Yeah.
Flying.
And one of the things you and I were talking about, Brandon, on just even Sunday's show, when we did the post game, was like, they didn't just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, like they destroyed them. I mean, like, obviously, like it was it was one where they obviously were, and we said it, like they were predicted to win that game. And, when you look overall with the spread, right? And I think Bo Nix is actually undefeated against the spread this year. Like, he blew it out. I mean, like the 38-0, and the way that he was able to perform, you got everything and then some. Like, so much so that the exclamation mark was, we got a chance to see Jarrett Stidham in this kind of game. Like, you saw everything unfold, Brandon, to where it's like, yeah, there were backups included, but you can actually make the argument that is the most impressive and most powerful win that the Denver Broncos have had against the Kansas City Chiefs in a really, really long time. It's certainly the first shutout that the Broncos have handed the Chiefs, against Andy Reid.
Let me just start with this because I have to. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to playoff Manely Broncos. I had to give it to the guests first, but That had to be the first thing that I say on this episode. No, absolutely. I mean, we went into that game. I need a meme of that immediately.
Yeah.
Please, someone. If you don't make it, I'll make it.
Josh,
but
if you don't
probably
make
better than I am.
Yeah.
Josh, can you make that for me? And can we make it in video format if possible, or GIF format, so we can play it on the podcast? No, we went into that game, and I mean, obviously, yeah, like it's backups, whatever. We talked about this after the game on Sunday, but obviously, like securing that win got us into the playoffs. But that was like the most playoff team performance that we could have put on. Like that got us in the playoffs, but also proved that we are a playoff team, because that's what a playoff team does against a team that's resting their starters. Is they completely decimate them, blow them out of the water, shut them out. 38-0, like that's what's supposed to happen. If it was closer, if Carson Wentz put on a little bit of a show, I mean, like I think this was last year, 2 years ago, the last game of the season, the Rams were resting Stafford. They played Carson Wentz, and he kind of played decently. Threw a couple touchdowns and looked decent. Like, if any of those things happen, it's like, okay, well, yeah, we still win, but maybe it's just like, it just doesn't have that same like finality feel of just. And again, yes, I mean, the game doesn't really matter, obviously, for the Chiefs. For us, it gets us into the playoffs, but we could have won by 1 point or 38 points, won by 38 points. Momentum matters, but also just like
momentum.
Momentum. That's the thing. That's what it is now. It's momentum. Momentum matters, and being able to put away your hated division rival in that fashion that we were able to do, just kind of sent a message to the locker room. And I think it was perfectly encapsulated in that video that Bo put out there. I think that was today or yesterday evening. It just like it sends the message like we're here. And honestly, like we'll get into this with the Bills game, but I'm so excited to talk about this game because we're playing with house money here. Like no one expected us to be here. It doesn't even matter what happens because we could go one and done and this season is still a success. Even if we go one and out because like we got to the playoffs for the first time in 9 years, right? Like even that in and of itself is a success. Even if we lost somehow, didn't get to the playoffs, this season's still a success because Bo looks like the dude. But the fact that, we're here, we match up pretty well against this team who we beat the last time we were at their stadium. We'll get into it, but it was just nice to see them be able to do what they did against the Chiefs, because that's exactly what you expect a playoff team to do against a team that's playing backups. And Bo had quite a few, like, I don't care who you're playing against. He had some throws that's like, damn, like it doesn't, like that throw has nothing to do with the person that's guarding the receiver. That throw is all timing, arm strength, touch, anticipation by Bo. And those are things that, I mean, this has been an up and down season. It did take a little bit of time for you to kind of start seeing that, but obviously as a rookie, that sort of happens. The fact that he finished second most all-time rookie passing touchdowns in the league history by 2 and hadn't even thrown a touchdown until basically October is also crazy. Did you guys see that like grouping of Bo, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, and Tom Brady?
He dropped Bo dropped
that.
Yeah, Bo dropped some.
SALS wearing this Bo Leaf t-shirt. I gotta go look at that.
I bought it yesterday.
Okay. I'm gonna look this up right now.
Bo Lever right there.
Where anyway, it's Bo, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, and Tom Brady are the only quarterbacks in NFL history to have 10 plus games of at least 2 touchdowns, no picks, I think.
200 yards,
in 200 yards in a row, I think. Anyway, just like absolutely having an amazing rookie year and proving that he can make the throws that you ask him to make. And going into the beginning of the season, it was all like, oh, well, his A-dot is like tiny because he doesn't throw down the field, never throws like a bubble screen and is throwing behind the line of scrimmage and all that stuff. They talked about with him with Oregon. He actually has a higher A-dot than Patrick Mahomes. Fun fact. But dude just proved that he's a cannon. He made some just ridiculous shots in that game. That kind of cover 2 hole shot that he threw to Cortland Sutton up the right sideline. I think was Cortland Sutton, was just incredible. The throw to Vele was amazing. The ridiculously lucky tipped touchdown pass I was holding my breath, but yeah, I mean that's like, again, take away who they're playing against. I don't even care what the final score is. Like, that was just a nice game to see from him, and build that momentum to go into the playoffs. But just like, it feels like he's kind of got back into a little bit of that rhythm that he had in October, where he won, obviously, AFC Player of the Month, Rookie of the Month in October. Or was it the NFL Rookie of the Month? One of those two. There's too many awards, man. It's hard to keep track. But that's just like the perfect time for him to start kind of building that momentum back up. Dude looks good. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line this entire season. He looks good. We finally have a guy. I am so excited for this game, but even if we lose, I don't even care, because I'm so excited to go into an off season where we don't have to worry about that. All we have to worry about is how we're going to build around this dude. We have the cap space for it. We have the draft picks for it. We don't have to worry about Black Monday. We don't have to worry about anything except, how are we going to improve this team? Because, like, this is, I said this before, and I'm not the first one to say this, but like, it's crazy to think that this is probably the worst team Bo's going to have.
Not probably. It will.
At least for the next, like, 6 years. Maybe in his career. Maybe his career. I don't know. Like, we're probably not going to be in this situation again, hopefully. Yeah. So it's looking up. Stonk's trending up.
I mean, you even had Steve Spagnuolo, his quote where he talks about him before the Arrowhead game. It's I don't know about you guys, but it's cycled through my brain all throughout that game. And then you hear, was it even like during the week or right after, he compares him to Josh Allen, not something that I had on my radar screen, him comparing him to Josh Allen Jr. So, and funny enough, the Broncos, as we know, are going to be playing the Bills, in the playoff game this upcoming Sunday. Again, one reminder to everybody, make sure you hit that subscribe button for the MHRT Network page, and give us a like. We also are doing super chats now. So if you feel compelled to give a certain amount and for a super chat, we certainly thank you and we appreciate you. Big Mike chimes in and he says, Rookie of the Month, Rookie of the Week 3 times, FedEx Player of the Week 2 times, Offensive Player of the Week 2 times, and he just won today the Nickelodeon Most Valuable Player Award, which means
didn't he win that another week too?
Which means he's going to get slimed.
Yeah,
man. So I honestly don't know what you would have to think that the voting, the NFL voting ends at some point this week, because you obviously have to factor in that, the voting is closed obviously before it goes to the playoffs. That's just unfortunately, how things go. But like, what even a way to really just cement yourself into the playoffs, and possibly, if they can, cement yourself as maybe Rookie of the Year or close the gap a little bit more.
This is one of those years that you wish the AFC and NFC had their own Rookie of the Year, because both Jaden and Bo are just studs.
Or even a share. I mean, to even just objectively say it, like, Brock Bowers has had a phenomenal year. You know what I mean? Even Brian Thomas is.
Dude, I hate having another tight end in our division like that.
It's just it's crazy.
Tyler Warren's on Denver, dude. It's all good.
Yeah,
it's fair. It's true. That's true. I mean, in all respect to Jaden, like, he's had a ridiculous rookie season as well. This is going to be remembered. This is a special class. This is going to be a special class. Even regardless of whatever happens in Chicago, and even if Caleb Williams completely flames out, because that team can't put together a competent staff or roster ever. Like, Drake May looks good. That also depends on that, team putting together a competent roster and staff. But this is a special draft class, and I don't envy the choice the Vikings are going to have to make as well. But obviously, this is a Broncos show. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about what we've seen out of this class, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, wherever you want to rank them 1 and 2 in your offensive rookie of the year rankings. Brock Bowers, I do agree. I think deserves to be up there just because he's a tight end. Like he's not going to win it. Like that's just positionally, that just doesn't happen. But he's probably the best rookie tight end season ever.
I mean, it was Laporta like a couple of years ago, and then
it was Laporta last year.
Yeah,
Kyle Pitts had a good one too. He had 1,000 yards as a rookie.
He did have 1,000 yards. Yeah, I think he had like 2 touchdowns though, or something, which is just a travesty because the Falcons' offense was ridiculous. But
maybe a trade candidate, by the way.
Yeah, rookie tight ends are starting to kind of look pretty good. Please draft one.
So Tyler Warren, come on down.
But yeah, I mean,
there's like 5 guys. There's like 5 dudes that would absolutely be upgrades.
Oh,
yeah, that's a draft conversation.
And that's just at the YMCA.
There's one just somewhere walking on the street. Anyway, I fully support and second the AFC NFC rookies of the year just because, like, I think it'd be fun. I have no problem with Jaden Daniels getting it. Like, I don't even care if we win the award or not. We got our guy. That's all that matters. He had an amazing year too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be fun.
Well, it's a good way to, finish that, obviously, in terms of perspective. Matty.
Yeah. So, but he's the 6th quarterback taken. He just got the scraps. He overdrafted him at 12. What is he?
It was doing? A panic pick. Remember?
He panicked. He totally panicked because he didn't get JJ McCarthy apparently.
No, he baited the Vikings.
Right.
Trading up for him.
Already the best quarterback in Broncos history that they drafted.
Best rookie season already.
Yep.
4th most touchdown passes in team history.
Behind Peyton.
Period.
Yeah.
With a T.
Yeah.
Like you don't. That's not even rookie. I just gotta say, I like it like that. We got our quarterback. I don't know how to act. Bow motion for me. Bow motion for me. Bow motion for me. Moving bow motion for me. Like we got that dude finally. And you guys mentioned that this is the worst our team's going to look. Like $90 million in dead cap money. We have a little bit left to pay the piper next year. But like we already are a competitive team. We beat the teams we're supposed to beat. We compete against the ones that we're not favored against. Next year's when we turn the corner and we start beating those teams that, are in the upper echelon. But we might actually start that this week. I think that the Vegas odds aren't taking into consideration the way that the team has played just because of the 2 losses of late. But that offense is clicking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all it takes is a couple of plays to get the old Josh Allen to rear his ugly head. Yeah, we might have a ball game. And I think it's because we have Bo Nix. How many teams scheme things to protect a rookie quarterback, whereas our rookie quarterback is going to put us in a position to actually compete and win games?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, and for Bo Nix, like it's wild. I mean, like if this is the type of cosplaying we're going to be getting from the quarterback position, like this is some elite stuff. I mean, like this is crazy. And I just think that, overall when you look at it just over the course of the season, you finally got a chance to see an offense, and obviously it was the rookie quarterback and everything, but you finally got a chance to see a team as a whole possibly be something great and be deserving of a playoff. I mean, like the defense was really coming together. There wasn't this, 5-game winning streak that carried you possibly into this playoff conversation and, kind of the rest was history. No, this was like, over the course of this entire season, the defense really showed out and played pretty well, even down the stretch, except for a few games here and there. And they even had their own exclamation point of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. And, and so the defense played so well that by the end of the year, we aren't necessarily talking about just one defensive player of the year. We're talking about 2 potential defensive player of the year. Obviously, if you're a betting person, which clearly, if you look at the betting, Pat Surtain is the actual front runner and leader to win the defensive player of the year. And so if he wins, he's going to end up being the 7th cornerback, which is crazy. The 7th cornerback to win the award of defensive player of the year.
Who was the last one that won it? Stephon Gilmore?
Gilmore.
Yeah, with him with Gilmore.
Yeah.
But just Alec, I'll send it off to you. Like, this defense has been just absolutely insane. And one of the things that Matty and Brandon and I have always talked about when in terms of where it starts is that trenches. Like the trenches of this team, has been incredible. I mean, leading the entire NFL in sacks, led by Sack Allen. Right? That's the joke, the running joke always, and the popular running
PFF's number one enemy.
Yeah, number one enemy. But up and down, they've got absolute dudes on that defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal, obviously, from last year. Like, we just got run over like crazy, couldn't get pressure inside. And then draft day rolls around and they trade the best 6th-round pick to the New York Jets for JFM.
2026 pick, too.
Incredible.
Oh, my God. Like, just absolute fleece. Looking back on it, absolute fleece. And they go, I mean, we're 2 deep at nose. We're 3-4 deep at 3 tech with the guys. Like, and especially when we run nickel and they're just moving both those guys in and out. Like, they're always fresh. Zach, his motor and like legitimate like snap count is insane. Like, the fact that he's able to be that effective for that many plays and still go is wild. And when he had a 3.5 sack game the week prior, like 8.5 sacks with him. And then on top of that, if you want to throw the edge rushers as part of the whole front in there, like first time since 2018, we've had 2 guys with 10 plus, and then you toss in Zach just right behind them. And then 2 rookies with 5 sacks. JFM with another 6.
Yeah.
It is deep. And not just that, but they're big boys are getting off the ball quick. Like, it's not just seeing the edges fly, like they're getting in the face. It's gonna be a blast to see how they do this next week. But I would say like the quality of the game in general, like it's been beat to death, is just good teams win, great teams cover, and greater teams beat the absolute dog shit out of their opponent when they're supposed to. So the only caveat that I would say, and I've heard this going around too, that I completely agree with, is our running game still not look great.
Yeah.
Is if you're going to do that against backups, it's not solid. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, Buffalo's front is not that great when it comes to defending the run. So if there is something that we can do, it's there. But flip side of that is that just from a pass rush perspective, when Ed Oliver, Rousseau, and Vaughn can all kind of be interchangeable there, it's I mean, thankfully
Gregory Rousseau too.
Yeah. I think both those guys will line up on Quinn and McGlinchey, so they're going to have the right side of the line. It's going to be busy, but it's going to be interesting. But yeah, passing game is lighting up. They're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. Marvin Mims is who they drafted. That's why every mock you see them going after the dude out of Missouri is just silly, because they don't need him right now. They've got Marvin. Marvin's developing into what that guy would be for that offense. And Vele has the surest hands of any rookie that we've seen out of nowhere. The guys are developing like they should. Cortland is not dropping balls as much as he has. The ass chewing he took from Shawnee hasn't fumbled since. And biggest complaint though is just running game is just so inconsistent. If Jaleel had another 10 pounds on him, I would say every time let's give him the ball. But we'll see what happens though. Again, cold team game all around, so the weather's not going to be a factor for either side. It's going to be who executes the most. And if they light up Josh like they did last year, go to hell. But if they light Josh up like they did last year, I mean, bear in mind again, Russ pulled off some magic in that game. He was pretty efficient with the ball, but the yards were not there. He had 2 touchdowns, one of which was just the play of the year by Cortland. But the biggest thing that scares me just looking at next week is whatever they do with James Cook in the passing game. They didn't get him involved that much last year, and this year he's lighted up. He torched us last year on the ground, almost a little over 9 yards a carry on 12 carries. So, but overall, like Brandon said, we're playing with house money. Everything from here is gravy. It is what it is. It's all a success. We're invited to the party. Like the meme showing like the one guy like breaking off and spraying champagne everywhere, and he's like last on the podium. That's definitely us. I don't give a shit. Like we're there.
Yeah.
We're in the books. So, and then regardless of fan bases being upset and how we got in, decades down the line, they're not going to look back and say, "Oh, did they play their second strings?" No, they're going to just see what the final record was at the end of the year. So, so we are 10-7, 10 wins, number 10, first year. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, and, looking at this game strictly, Brandon and Matty, like from just the matchups, and it goes to it, like the trenches is kind of like where you want to lean towards this because, it's like the complete opposite, in my opinion, to where this Cleveland Browns game, right? Like, you can't necessarily neutralize, Josh Allen. But he's going to be able to, be a little bit aggressive. You might be able to luck out and get some picks, but you also got to keep him inside the pocket. And, it's basically the same way that you could possibly defend, Pat Mahomes to a certain degree, the way he could be able to escape out of the pocket and make some plays out there on the run. And I think that, given the fact that the Broncos played the Bills last year, and obviously, it was a very different quarterback situation, but confidence-wise, going into that, into this game, for the playoffs, I think is going to mean a lot more, than hurt this team. But like, I just, the one thing Strez mentions this, and I was actually going to ask, Matty and Brandon, you can feel free to chime in this too, Alec, but like, one of the things, and we've seen it a few times this year, and and that is that not probably the defensive player of the year front runner doing that, but the other defensive player of the year candidate, Nick Bonito, has actually spied some quarterbacks so far this year. Do you put Mr. Speed Rusher, who's maybe not as much of a speed rusher so much as the season, wounded and down a little bit and became more of a complete edge rusher? Do you have, Matty, Nick Bonito be that spy a little bit for Josh Allen?
I don't bring him every time, but I certainly don't have him as a dedicated spy either. You want to mix it up, but the problem is,
sure,
This is the issue. This is how I break down their offense and how our defense can match up or will not be able to match up. We'll start on the outside. We'll start with receivers. So Amari Cooper's going to play. That came out today that he's going to play. PS2 has got to be on him. We're not rotating guys around and getting cute. PS2 on Amari Cooper, Riley Moss on Keon Coleman, and we got to have McMillan on Shakir. That is our best way to line up in a man scenario. Now, we line up in a man scenario with variations of that to get into zone or get into options where Josh Allen doesn't kill us if he gets outside the pocket. Because the last thing you want to do against a mobile quarterback is be in man and allow them to get outside. You have corners running down the field with their back to the quarterback, and then that's no bueno. They're getting 15 yards a pop pretty easly. We certainly don't want to allow that. If they're going to run the ball, they're going to have to feed Cook, and they're going to have to do it traditionally. We want that to happen. Kind of a similar game plan to other mobile quarterbacks that I've said in the past, trying to make them like Richardson. Now, granted, Allen is much better throwing the football than Richardson, but the point still remains. If he's going to kill us, he needs to kill us quickly in the play. The longer that the play extends, the more dangerous that is for us, with the way that he's protected the football this year, especially. Now, if we can get a little pressure, force him to get rid of the ball, that could work in our favor. So we have to play some zone. We have to do some blitzing off of that. what's going to kill us is the interior of our defense. And I don't mean on the line. I mean safeties and linebackers playing against two very good tight ends and a running back out of the backfield. We have gotten gashed by that all season. We very similar game plan, honestly. You mentioned Mahomes earlier. Two very good tight ends and an offense that likes to utilize the running back out of the backfield. So some type of a variation of what you would do against Mahomes to neutralize some of that stuff in the middle of the field, while simultaneously pulling in some wrinkles like what we did against the Colts to neutralize Richardson. He got loose early, but he didn't get loose often. And that's what we're going to have to do against this team. They've scored over 40 points several times this season. It's almost like you're giving them 30 points from kickoff with how that offense has been able to score. So we are certainly going to have our hands full with that offense. It's going to come down to the decision-making quickly of Allen. And then can we match up and can we not get cute and allow Amari Cooper to be loose against Riley Moss with no help over the top? That's nightmare fuel for me. So Shakir against Riley, like I don't mean to crucify Riley Moss, but there are certain archetypes of guys that could give him trouble. They've got a couple of those guys deep that could give him work if we don't scheme this correctly. So there's a lot certainly to be concerned about, even with the talent that we have defensively.
Feel free to chime in, Brandon. Bring your relic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think the comparison to the Chiefs kind of extends a little bit further than that in the fact that the Chiefs are also like a team that has they don't really have amazing offensive weapons. They just have, outside of the running back, they just have quarterbacks that are aliens, right? And so I do think with the matchup here, with obviously the Broncos defense that has the most sacks in the NFL and also has the best defensive player in the NFL, who happens to be a corner and the best corner in the NFL, I do think that matches up pretty decently in the fact that like the synergy that you hear all the time of like coverage sacks happening, like obviously this is Josh Allen and that's like much less of a guarantee in this situation. But if you can contain him, if you can put some more pressure on him, if you can hit him, if you can just minimize him as much as you possibly can in the running game, maybe you do spy him a little bit with Benito. I do agree. I don't think that's something you can do all the time, but you got to mix it up. You got to give him different looks. But I do think that we have the personnel to be able to stop what weapons they do have. I think a lot of that's going to come down to, can Riley Moss get back to pre-injury Riley Moss quickly? Because he did kind of look meh so far when he's been back, although obviously he's coming off of that injury, which is not fantastic. So that's, I'm not going to hold that against him. But I do think that it's going to come down to, yeah, absolutely. Pretty much what Mike is saying is like, can we stop Josh Allen if he takes off and runs? I mean, we have a very good defense against the run, but we need to really find ways to get to him and hit him, because even if we can't get the sack, if we can just keep up the pressure on him, make him make mistakes, make him run and get tired, and just continue to hit him, like I think that's how we're going to wear him down. And I also do think, speaking of defensive lines and how amazing ours is, I do agree that the Bills' defensive line is kind of one of their liabilities. You can run on that team. The biggest issue is we can't run. So it's kind of one of those situations where it's like opposite forces collide in the sense of like, well, they can't stop the run, but we can't run the ball. So like, which one's going to give first, right? I think honestly, one of the biggest things that I would be interested to see is like, does Tyler Bidet actually come back? Because they technically they had activated his 21-day window on Christmas Eve. He's been practicing. He was listed as a full practice participant today, but they have not officially elevated him to the active roster in that 21-day window. But he's been a full practice participant, so that's interesting to me.
I could have sworn the news broke last week that because they didn't have him active at all for the game, that his season was done.
So I saw that, but that was also basically the report had come out that said that we were unlikely to activate him this season if we didn't make the playoffs, because they activated his 21-day return from IR on Christmas Eve. So that gives us until the 14th, so literally after the game, to decide to activate him. He was listed as a full practice participant today. I'm not saying it's a guarantee that he comes off and that he's active and they put him on the active roster, but I did read that same report, but it did specifically say if we were not in the playoffs. And obviously we are now in the playoffs. So that's a wrinkle to me, because I do think he's probably our best running back so far that we've seen. And obviously, I don't know what he's going to look like. Is he going to look like the Tyler Bidet that we saw before he got injured, where he's kind of just like a bruiser? He's a great running back. And I do think like him and McLaughlin is a great duo to throw against the Bills and kind of just keep things more manageable for Bo. Obviously we're going to Buffalo, like not a fantastic environment to put your rookie quarterback in. It's going to be cold. But I think if you can continue to keep up the run, Sean, I don't care what you have to do, make the run it reminder on your play sheet like as big as you possibly can, and just remind yourself, continue to run it, because that's going to be how we can kind of control some more time possession here and just do what we've done all season. Like, Bo, make the plays that you can make that are there. Take care of the football if you can. Don't try to continue to, please, for the love of God, please just try not to continue to throw the deep ball to Troy Franklin, because it's just not going to connect this year. I'm sorry. It's just not there.
Troy Fletch Franklin.
Throw it to Marvin Mims. Yeah, don't let Troy doesn't need more cardio. Throw it to Marvin Mims. That's all I ask.
But you know what's funny? Based on playoff moments, it feels like it would all be setting up for Troy Franklin, and
it feels like that. But from what we've seen, I'm not going to bank on it.
Like just a game-winning, 60-yard bomb.
I mean, that would be the most. That would be the most Broncos thing.
Baby number 4 would be on the way.
But yeah, that's kind of how I see this game matching up here. It's going to be a fun one though. I think again, the biggest thing to me is Tyler Bidet active, because if you tell me that our top 2 running backs are him and Jaleel McLaughlin, obviously he's probably going to be on a run count. Like, that was a scary injury that he suffered against the Jets, probable for Sunday. And I don't think you can give him a ton of carries, but I think that he's a good enough back that if he can play, you got to play him, and you got to give him, 10 carries against this Bills defensive front. Just help out Bo as much as you can.
Well, not even just their front. Their strengths are obviously Rousseau and Oliver. And Rousseau, we got to think about this too. The dude
Milano is...
He can reach. He can
back
his span, his arms. So that's one thing. Bo just has to make sure not to get any balls batted at the line. But but their linebackers, Milano's on the way back, but he's still rusty.
He's like 80%.
But the rest of their linebacking core is not. It's I would say I would say it's probably a playoff core, but it's also similar to ours. I think our starters kind of match up similar to that, but safeties. Man, I think we can just burn him, man. There's at least one Mims bomb.
Oh, just Mims and not Troy Franklin. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, if Javonte goes off for 114 and 2 tutties, I will take back every negative thing I said last week.
Me too.
If we can't get over the 100-yard mark for a running back in this game,
man, I just want a 1,000-yard rusher again. But
next year, maybe.
I know, but it's going to be interesting to see these two match up. But to kind of come back to do you rush 5 or do you have spy? I mean, the answer is both, right? You have to mix and match. But I just think of the plays that come back to my head are Burrow running for 19 yards to get a key first down because we were do you spy or do you send 5? Even 4 you can get enough. You can get enough. I think on this team, but also the kicker is that Buffalo's defense doesn't give up that many sacks. They could give. I think saw something about less than 20 sacks this year. Josh has been sacked. So they're good. They're very good. So I mean,
He's
like
the least sacked quarterback.
Both
I
are.
think. Yeah.
Both are.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
that is going to be both pass blocking. They're phenomenal. But I still just picture a wheel route like to Cook just going to the house. It's just they're gonna have Cody Barton on him, and he's just gonna get his ass burnt.
Yeah.
But I knock on wood. Again, this comes back to the statement earlier today. I'm optimistic that Vance is coaching for his next job right now, and I don't want him to leave, but I think he's got something to prove on whatever he schemes up. But also, we have nothing to lose, and the Buffaloes have, and the Bills have everything to lose.
This is completely unrelated, obviously talking Broncos per se, but it's the game itself. We haven't had a chance to talk about it too much, even with 5280. We did talk about some jobs, but just in the vein of talking about the game, guys, if Denver pulls the impossible, right, and they get the win, right, doesn't matter, how you shake it, they get the win. The firing Sean McDermott crowd will be really, really loud, even locally, obviously nationally. There's not a lot of jobs out there, right? There's not a lot of jobs out there. So it could force the Bills to be really, really aggressive. And obviously I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's the report out there that said Bill Belichick is, not interested in going to the NFL. But if I'm the Buffalo Bills and I am that desperate, I would be, considering all options at that point.
Or just promote.
You want to know what the funniest and also most nightmare-inducing scenario here would be?
I'm on the same page with you.
Beat the Bills because of our defense, and then Vance Joseph leaves to be the Bills head coach because they fire McDermott because we beat them.
I've got one worse.
It could happen, man. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Pittsburgh's going to get absolutely punched in the face by Baltimore. And they may be looking to get out of the mediocrity. I know winning season after winning season, but there's a lot of smoke about potentially changing things up and moving on from Tomlin and allowing that team to kind of rebuild. They could go and trade him for draft capital, and Buffalo certainly with everything in place, he's the best candidate they could get. He's probably a top 5 coach in the NFL anyway. I could very well, like, if the Bills are one and done and they do make that tremendous move off of McDermott, who I think would then go to Dallas, I could see them saying, you know what, who needs a first round pick? Like, let's go get Tomlin. Let's fix this.
Well, there's even some rumblings, of Kevin O'Connell garnering some trade interest of, so
after what he did for Sam Darnold, I cannot possibly see that happening, but you never know.
14 freaking wins with that team. Yeah. Man, that's tough. Like, how do you ever get better than that?
Wow. Going back to the game itself, guys, prediction time. Do you actually believe that the Broncos will, in fact, come away with the upset? And Alec, we'll start with you. Do you think that they pull it out?
Ooh, this is fun. For the sake of having nothing to lose, I think that this team is motivated, and I think Sean has some extra juice that they can start going with, and I'm going to pretend that the team is waking up. I think if they pull this off, that 8.5 spread is just stupid. Mm-hmm. That's just like they're asking people just to burn money.
Yeah.
I think they could pull out a Big Nuts Lutz. Kick to be the winner. I think they could pull this out, and it could be a 21-18 game.
You said 21-15 or 21-18?
21-18.
Brandon?
All right, I'm going to give you my realistic prediction, and I'm going to give you my fun prediction. My realistic prediction is I do think the Bills are going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we can upset them. Of the teams that could be potentially upset in the first round of the playoffs this next weekend, I'm going to say at Super Wildcard weekend, I'm going to say that I think we have probably the most likely option here, the most likely chance of pulling off that upset. So I will start with that, but I'm going to say I do think that the Bills will win just because I need to be realistic here, even though I am biased. In terms of score, I could see a 21-18. I could see something that's like pretty close. This could turn into, I could see this game going two ways. Actually, it could be like a very high scoring, low key shootout. Like I would not be surprised if that happens. If we can get the run game going and stick with it. But I also do think it could turn into a little bit of a defensive slugfest. So I like that 21-18. I'm going to say 24-21 Bills. But my fun prediction, Nick Bonito gets another pick six, baby.
A pick six, like a legitimate pick.
A Nick six.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
like we're gonna be tied. It's gonna be the fourth quarter. The Bills are gonna be driving. Pat Surtain and Riley Moss are locking people up. Josh is gonna have to be forced to make a crazy play. He's gonna run around. Nick Bonito is gonna be somewhere lurking. Josh is gonna try to do some kind of crazy like side pass or like try to fit it into a tight window in the middle of the field, and Nick is just gonna be like, nope, that's mine.
Like Browns 2.0.
House money, baby.
Yeah. Matty.
So as you guys know, I tend to be the wet blanket on this show. I tend to say that, when I think the Broncos are going to lose, like I don't hesitate to say that. There's a lot of hesitation this week.
I hate that so much.
We are, Big Mike. Thanks for the contribution, but I think you've got to be excommunicated, bud. Justin, Jonathan Taylor Sternad, like that's please. 30-27 Broncos pull up the upset.
Moose River Hummer also says they have to score 30 to win.
Dang, you got that out right as I was saying my prediction. 30-27. So go in and put the not financial advice for entertainment purposes only, but I would definitely put money down on the over. The over-unders at 47.5. I think that's entirely too low.
Let me just preface it this way. If it comes down to a game-winning field goal and Lutz is kicking the game-winning field goal, I only ask one thing. That Jim Nantz and Tony Romo specifically asked Kyle Brandt to appear on the broadcast. And he talks about how, that it shouldn't be a field goal or he's going through all these different types of scenarios, just like last year, with all the 12 men on the field, which, by the way, that would be that would be funny. If it all goes back down to that exact same type of scenario, and the Broncos win via that way.
I don't know, man. The Broncos pulled Bill Vinovich. I don't know if that's going to happen.
The like Von Miller, just like he has an out of body experience and just like sprints onto the field when he's not
to
supposed
celebrate
to be
with
there.
the Broncos.
Von Miller is going to pull an unprecedented switch teams at halftime.
Like,
can I just stop? Can I just obviously we're predicting the game. How do you feel if you're a Bills fan? Like, I don't know. Like, how would you feel as being a Bills fan and and knowing that even when it's not Broncos week, but just like knowing the fact that like he will every once in a while just say, I absolutely love being a Bronco still. Like I absolutely love I've always loved being a Bronco. Like I feel like to a certain degree, if I'm the fan base, I'm pretty pissed off to a certain degree because like how committed are you to the Bills organization?
Same way
think
Colts feel when Peyton Manning speaks.
Yeah, but that also flips side. I think that the casual fan is always going to be more chirpy when it comes to that thing. But those like the Bills fan base, they're a good fan base. They would they that's another thing. Like the fact that this is Broncos country versus Bills Mafia. That's two
Yeah.
phenomenal fan bases
Yeah.
that are watching their teams play this weekend. That I think those that know, then they respect Vaughn and his history. They know what he's done as a Bronco. But having said that, if somebody was on our team doing something like that, I would probably be a little pissy. So,
I mean,
but it depends on who it is. But like, it's what would be really sad is if Vaughn is the one that like seals the deal. Now that's the, or better yet, Vaughn, it's like, I'm sorry, little one, and Vaughn gets
Yeah.
it's like gets truck sticked by a bow at the goal line or something.
but that full circle, that like he even put that in his Instagram. It's a lot. We literally had Shane Ray, who played for us and had a Chiefs tattoo. So
did you guys see? I think he post like the Wesley Snipes crying meme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love you, Vaughn.
Strez chimes in. Bodex is going to have a game. It's going to be exciting. And if he does, I just hope, I think overall in the season he shut up a lot of people. The team in general shut up a lot of people. And I think that, when you to pull it back into the perspective, this season has just been so fun because and I think we've been using this word, ever so often, but this has just been growth, man. Nothing but growth. You know what I mean? Like this team has gotten better from week 1 to week 18, and now they earned the right to go to the playoffs. And by the way, if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, I highly, highly recommend getting a chance to see the Hard Knocks video of the Cincinnati Bengals getting their heart ripped to shreds, of the Kansas City Chiefs game that they were forced to watch because the NFL schedulers decided to put them on Saturday. And so having their heart ripped out and seeing all their hopes and dreams and former Nebraska Cornhusker Zach Taylor's hearts and dreams, shattered all in one. It was a true Nebraska Cornhuskers experience. You feel like you got the highs and just absolutely just crushed because you're just not there. You didn't earn it, buddy. You didn't earn it. If you did, you would have beat the Patriots. Which, by the way, this was I can't take credit for this. It was Gage who said this on the 5280 podcast. The Broncos last year lost to the New England Patriots, right? It was like that key game that we always reference, right? Unfortunately, that game, if you're going to maybe pinpoint one specific game, right? One specific game that the Broncos probably should have won in order to maybe get to the playoffs. That was the game, right? Well, they lost to the New England Patriots. Who did the Bengals lose to in the first week of the season?
Yep.
The New England Patriots. So kind of, cry me a river, Bengals fans. I saw what you did, signing that petition, trying to see and wiggle your way possibly into the into the NFL playoffs. This is not the college football playoffs, man. You're not South Carolina. Sorry, Matty. You're not South Carolina. You're not Alabama. You're none of these teams who are weeping on the timeline that you feel like you should be in the college football playoffs, or weeping that you should be in the NFL playoffs. It doesn't work like that. Man, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity that we could be in that playoff while the Bengals are just drinking their own tears.
Oh, for real. That video just randomly popped up on my timeline today, and it was like my 2025 attention span was able to zone in on everything with it. I didn't skip any of it. They were so upset, And it's just so, again, delicious that we got to be on the other side of that, because you know that they were so pissed.
They were pissed.
But at the end of the day, like, you know, I think that, like, yeah, it's always like, you know, you should have beat the Patriots. We should have beat. I mean, if we got host, I mean, there's plenty of games in the beginning of the year that we guarantee we win based on how we're playing right now. But it is what it is. They got hot at the wrong
Seattle
time.
for one.
Seattle
for another.
First 2 games of the year we should have won. That's
Mhm.
okay though. But then even Kansas City week 10. Again, it's whatever. However, we're in. And the Bengals still have, Nate Atkins is a random, as that dude has like some of the biggest catches of the year, like low key.
Yeah.
But shout out to Bengals still though, man. They're fun to watch, and they're gonna have a lot of hard decisions this offseason.
Kudos to them on winning the regular season MVP award for Joe Burrow. Not the physical MVP award, obviously, but you know, congratulations on winning the regular season MVP award. Peyton Manning's won it, you know, numerous times. He knows the feeling. But you know, one thing, I know Alex saw this, but Matty and Brandon, I post this on the timeline on X and Twitter, but when we talk about just overall with this season, and we're talking about perspective, was there a moment in this season where you felt like, yeah, the Denver Broncos are going to the the playoffs? Like, was there ever a moment for you in this season? And the biggest disclaimer is you can't, you know, do the cop out answer and be like, oh, it was when there was 0-0-0-0 on the clock, or you know, 0-0-0-1 on the clock with the Kansas City Chiefs. Was there Brandon? Was there ever a moment for you?
Oh, I was going to let the guests go first, but I can speak. Go for it, man. No, go for it.
No, you got it out.
Tag, you're it.
Hot potato.
Okay, so honestly, it was probably the Browns game, because that was kind of where we saw. I mean, it was the most Jameis Winston game ever, right? But like the defense was kind of getting decimated. Bo was making some mistakes and throwing a couple picks, and we still found a way to get it done. We were able to get a couple scores on the ground, and just kind of really it was that turnaround of like Bo throwing the touchdown to Marvin Mims. Like pretty much up until that point, it was not great. It was like looking like we were going to lose. It was, again, 500 yards of offense against this defense that up until that point had been pretty lights out. And it was like, damn, this sucks. Like this is, you know, we thought we were maybe going to go to the playoffs. This is not really a playoff team. We're maybe still a couple years away, year away. We just don't have the roster for it. You know, Bo's a rookie. The defense is maybe not as good as we thought. And then he throws that bomb to Marvin Mims out of his end zone. And first of all, Sean Payton trusts him to make that play throwing out of his end zone.
On 4th and 1.
But then, go ahead.
No, just 4th and 1 too.
4th and 1. And pretty much from that point onward, like the game kind of flipped in a similar sense that the game flipped when we played the Colts, where Jonathan Taylor fumbled out of the back of the end zone on that 41-yard touchdown run. And obviously we end up winning that game 41-32. And it just kind of felt like, oh, that's not a game that any previous iteration of this team in the past 8 years wins.
Yeah. I can't remember what you said, Alec. I can't remember what you said.
Week 3. And I say that because after we just lost 2 games and the opponent that we were playing had just beaten 2 playoff teams. So Tampa had just beaten the Commanders in week 1 by 17 points and the Lions by 6 points the week prior in Detroit, by the way. And then Denver goes into Tampa and just dogs them, like 26-7. Bo was lighting it up. That was also Bidet like tore it up too on the ground. but Bo didn't throw for any touchdowns, but he ran for one, and defense was killing it. They made Baker look silly. Like, they played a very good team that day and beat them.
Yeah. And they're in the
And
playoffs too now.
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, they won their division. So like it was that point, and then obviously the next week was just the awful game in New Jersey. But the 3 points for me at least. So like it was like a tease where it's like obviously like Bo's trying to get it together there, but then really where his arm started to really tear everything up was by the time that they played that Thursday night game in New Orleans, and they were just he threw for 300 yards that game. They just beat the dog shit out of the Saints on a Thursday night on Peyton's homecoming. Where I know that was like they were hurt and banged up, but you still have to play who's in front of you. But like, yeah, for like it is a cop out a little bit to say at the beginning of the season. Like it's just how you lose 0-2 and you come back and that was the beginning of a 3-game win streak. That was huge. And earlier it was said we didn't go on a 5-game run to get into the playoffs because we had multiple streaks. Like we won a 3-game, we had a 3-game win streak, 2-game win streak, 3-game win, a 4-game win streak, and then we won this week. Like all we had, we won in bunches. So it's usually something how they respond and get some good momentum into this season.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I feel like it's a hard question to ask, but it's a fun one because it allows you to reflect on the season. But it's a hard one in the sense of like when you look at it, there's from this season in particular there were a lot of character building moments, and when you look specifically in week 3, from week 3 to week 4. Maybe the most character building moment of the season was that week 3 to week 4, because that was the very famous West Virginia trip, right? That was the famous West Virginia trip. We're going to stay on the East Coast. And then, then at that point, that's when they won their game, that gritty win, against the Jets. And, maybe that's the other side of it too, Matty, is that like, they just had a lot of games this year where we were just telling ourselves where it was like they would never have won this type of game, in the last, 9 years. So specifically the Jets game, right? And you touched on it, Alec, like the week 3 to week 4, but like week 4, they probably should never have won that game, even 2 years ago. That Colts game specifically, they probably don't win that game. And I can't tell you how unfortunate. I think I even told you this, Alec, when we were at the game, but it's unfortunate with how your mind wanders to where it's like, oh, over the course of the last 8 to 9 years, I don't know how to feel about this game, knowing the fact that, we've just been known to, lose this type of game, so it's unfortunate that that's where your mind goes. So Matty, what were some of the key moment or the moment where you kind of figured that they were playoff bound?
It's actually a moment that we weren't playoff bound. The Marvin Mims touchdown on 4th down against Cincinnati in between 2 defenders. And then you see Bo Nix throwing up the 2. In that moment, I'm like, we're going to go for 2. We're going to freaking win this thing. There's like essentially no time left on the clock. I think it was like 5 seconds on the clock, something like that after that play. I was like, Bo just had his moment. We're going to go for 2. We're going to win it. This is it. I was like starting to kind of get choked up. I was like ready to run outside. It was
emotions were there.
I was like, I was about to be running. I was going to be running through my neighborhood. Like, we made the playoffs. We made the playoffs. And of course, people around here know I'm a Broncos fan. Because even when we suck, I don't hide that. But like, we don't suck right now. It's that line in For Love of the Game. For today, we're the best team in baseball. Like, we don't suck right now. And you know what? Like, we didn't suck in that moment. Like, we took on one of the hottest teams in football in their place. Joe burrowed, and yet we burrowed ourselves out of it and still managed to put ourselves in that position. I'm like, we're going to get this dub. It's going to happen. That took a lot of wind out of my sails that we decided to just give him the ball back and play field position in overtime and all that. And, you know, it's like you're going to have Bo Nix go the length of the field versus like one play, you know, to get it in from the 2. We had all the momentum too. So like, I thought in that moment it was going to happen. And then I was deflated after the game. And then, you know, as things fell and the Chiefs, you know, locked up their bye and we knew that they were going to rest their starters, it was like, okay, like I could take a deep breath. Like we're going to get this thing done. But that actually, like you guys are talking about other moments and like certainly Benito hopping the trick play against the Colts, Benito's pick 6 against Cleveland. I obviously love that Mims touchdown, the 93-yarder, whatever.
Yeah.
That was incredible. The play of the season that flipped it for us was the Surtain pick 6 against the Raiders. Because we would have been down 17-3.
Yeah.
And instead it's all knotted up and then there she goes. So there are certainly a lot of big moments, but I didn't let myself believe until 4th down, gotta have it, throw the ball up. Marvin Mims, much maligned as a receiver, and he ends up making the freaking play that I thought was going to put us in position to just take the game home.
He turned into Cortland Sutton. Like,
I mean,
yeah.
it was incredible. And side note, I watched the interview that he did with Kay Adams today or yesterday. It's on YouTube, and he said he watched a lot of Sproles. He watched a lot of Meacham. He watched a lot of Ted Ginn. And we're starting to see a lot of that, especially the Ted Ginn and how he was utilized there. So pretty interesting. You know, we're talking about Ohio State and all that. Ted Ginn, great player. I think Ohio State goes on to win the football playoff. That was a question earlier. But like much reliable as a weapon now, you know, offensively, as opposed to just being a world-class returner, which I think he put on the 5th best per average punt return rate.
NFLPA. Was it NFLPA All Pro that came out today?
Yeah. Also, this year was the number 1 in franchise history for
in freaking incredible as a 2-year guy. But him being a weapon offensively, it like all came together in that moment.
500 yards. That's kind of close to what he was, you know, close to accumulating like on the year. And you know, you look at like the midway point of the year, he was at 56 yards, 56, 58 yards. Like it was something pretty pathetic. And then, you know, that's actually worse than pathetic. You know, and you know, 500 yards basically, like 500 yards is in essence what he totaled on that stretch, you know, and to think of like where he's come as a wide receiver. And, you know, Alec, you touched on this, you know, at the middle part of that show about Mims and how he's really emerged, you know, how he really has emerged is maybe that wide receiver too. It's just a very dynamic weapon. I think a lot of people are using the Debo comparison a little bit, you know, for him.
Freebo Samuel.
But I think that but I think that the real comparison that probably should be made is Jaden Reed with the Packers. With the way that the Packers are kind of utilizing you know, him in terms of a lot of different routes, of course, and then, you know, Alec.
Sean Payton's coached a guy very similar to him, Brandon Cooks.
He has. Yeah, he has. It was one of his comparisons actually out of the draft. And
well, you look at their stat lines, man. Like he's just trying to get he believes a reincarnation of his former players because he's got a couple of them.
You look at Vele, people were comparing him a bit to Michael Thomas, right, Brandon? Like comparing, you know, Vele to Michael Thomas. And I got to say, and
was you had a Colston comparison too, didn't you?
Yeah. Even what is it? It was the RAS score. It was the RAS score. I looked at his RAS score and it was a bit similar, right? It was kind of a bit similar in how they were. I also have to pander a little bit to Matty a little bit. how much did you think about that with Marvin Mims' play? Because I just thought of this just now. That 4th and 1. How much did you think about the Red River shootout where Caleb Williams threw that play to Marvin Mims in the corner of the end zone? I think it was actually roughly in that same area. I think it was also like near the end of the game, almost an identical catch, and almost like if you look at the career and where Mims is in his respective career, NFL, college, like it was roughly that same timeline too at the young point of his career.
I mean, the parallels are certainly there.
Yeah.
We talk about Benito making interceptions. Like you could go look at the Baylor tape when Hurts was the quarterback. He iced that game in a comeback. So perhaps there is something to be said about Benito making a big critical interception in a big game with big implications to ice it. But yeah, I mean, the guy set records at in the state of Texas in high school. He was a stud in college, and then for some reason he just couldn't get going offensively. So much so that people just didn't consider him as a weapon, really. And I have to hand it to Peyton, like putting him in the backfield opened up a lot for him offensively to allow us to be able to then move him outside. And it's like all of a sudden things are clicking. But yeah, you're talking about that touchdown. Caleb Williams throws it up and Mims basically pirouettes, catches it, lands, and gets the ball across the pylon to score that touchdown in a big point in that game. Like the guy is a playmaker. Marvin Mims is that dude. So like, it's just good to see a lot of that paying off. But yeah, I saw a lot of similarities between those two plays.
Yeah.
By the way, Colston's and Vele's RAS scores aren't too far off.
Yeah. That's what I thought. They were pretty similar. Strez asks, what do you guys think Bo's stat line would be like, had it didn't take until week 4 to throw his first touchdown? What do you think it would have? I think to probably say it, Braden, is that he certainly would be breaking Justin Herbert's rookie record.
Yeah.
I think you could definitively say that, right, Brandon?
I would say yes. I think him still having that game against the Seahawks in week 1 that he had where he threw 2 picks, was pretty rough, didn't throw a touchdown. Like, I think that, to me, like, that was okay. The thing that really surprised me was specifically the Buccaneers game. Like, that was a great game for him outside of not throwing a touchdown, which is kind of surprising. So maybe he gets a couple in that game that, really probably should have been there. Maybe he gets 1 against the Steelers, and we're talking about, he breaks Justin Herbert's rookie season record.
You're also
obviously this is revisionist history, but I was just shocked that looking back at that Buccaneers game that he did not get a single touchdown.
And then, of course, pandering to the Oregon Duck over there in the bottom right-hand corner. I also would have to think, he locks up the rookie of the year.
I mean, if you look at his game logs, man, like the random games where he doesn't have it. So after week 4, he only had two games in which he didn't throw a touchdown pass, right? If you go from the Carolina game onward and just assume, I think he probably has just assumed 2, maybe add 4 touchdown passes, 4 to 5 in that span. So you'd be looking at somebody with, it's all retrospective looking at, he'd have almost 35 touchdown passes probably.
40 total.
Probably about 40 total touchdowns. And I think, he probably got that locked up. And on top of that, passing yards wise, touchdowns is one thing, but I think you'd be looking at, the Jets game, he obviously threw for 60 yards, right?
Yeah.
I think he'd be well over 4,200 yards. 4,200 yards, 40 total touchdowns. And it is what it is. But like I said this the other day, when, I think it was Mace was comparing Russell's season last year versus his season this year. And Russ had 13 total turnovers to Bo's 12, but all of Bo's are interceptions. That means he's throwing the ball. There's a few of those have been tip passes. Bo's getting the ball down the field. It's not getting sacked and getting a strip or having the ball fall and putter away from him as he got like a yard gain. Like most of his, 2/3 of his were picks, and then the rest of it were fumbles. Like Bo does not let the ball fall out, and he does. He learns. He's like AI. He learns as he goes when it comes to throwing the ball, and he gave us one of the best clips after the Pittsburgh game of what happened to that ball in the red zone. Drop back. There's the other team. He's got some moxie when he messes up, and he doesn't mess up often. He's learning, man. It's as haters like to say, he's 30 years old, but he's not going to be 25 until the end of next month. He's a stud.
Matty.
Yeah.
Dude, like, I don't think we fully appreciate how bonkers of a season he had in totality, because we had to fight for our lives to justify him on the timeline week in and week out against these analytic bros. And I'm getting my degree in analytics. I get it. But like, you can make numbers say a lot of what you want it to say. If you have, you're looking for confirmation bias and you're looking to justify your stance, you're not going in it objectively. The dude is the reason why we're in the playoffs. Period. Dot. Yeah. Oh, the A dot.
By the way, quick tangent. Bo is 11th on Pro Football Focus's A dot. So just saying for the A dot.
Yeah, that little dot is a little further down the line past the line of scrimmage than people really know. But like all the great quarterbacks, especially in today's game with, mesh concepts, a lot of screenplay, a lot of those things, like the elite quarterbacks throw a bunch of passes close to the line of scrimmage or underneath. And you have to, the best teams end up being able to scheme guys to get yak, which we had, not had a lot of over the last couple of seasons. But something else to consider with this great, elite, fantastic, supportive run game, according to some folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that Bo Nix has led the team in rushing with 35, 25, 61, 23, and 47 rushing yards. None of those are like Lamar Jackson breaking loose for 120 or something, or Josh Allen running for like 83 and 3 touchdowns or something, right? Like these are fairly modest numbers. That goes to show the very limited support he's had. So it's not like teams are stacking the box and then he's taking advantage of weak back ends. He's consistently having to go against teams dropping 7 in coverage, and he's still managing to pay it off. So, yeah, they drop 7 and he throws it underneath. That's what a rookie's supposed to do, is take the profit and move on. Like they've gone after this guy all season, really, and I think it's because of that slow start. If he starts faster, is he? Of course, this is like Burrow and Allen and Jackson, who had 3 of the best seasons in the NFL, and they happen to all be in the AFC. But he's not far off from that conversation of like, should we consider this guy as a Pro Bowler, as a rookie? Maybe
he might end up being one.
Depending. I mean, he wouldn't be able to play anyway because he's still going to be playing football. But I don't know. I felt Stan Marsh there for a minute. I'm going to get the wheelbarrow out. But like it's like the season he's had outside of that 4 weeks is bonkers. Let's just give that the credit that it's due. And it's already been historic in Broncos country lore. I mean, 4th most touchdown passes in general, regardless, as we mentioned earlier. Like he's getting into some ridiculous numbers, and then you could start lining him up with some of like Drew Brees's seasons in that offense
Mhm.
as a rookie, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous to me to be able to think that. And oh, by the way, he has more juice with his legs than Drew Brees had.
By a mile. Yeah, by a mile.
I was gonna say I actually compared their first seasons with Sean Payton yesterday.
They're crazy. They're almost identical.
Bo had a better completion percentage. Drew threw for more yards. But total yards, Bo wasn't that much behind because Drew only had 32 rushing yards on 42 attempts. Whereas Bo, 44.5% of his runs were for first downs.
Yeah.
So
it's in a sense the rushing yards that kind of tips it a little bit in terms of it. But Brandon, you called up a really fun comment. Like, could you imagine something like this? Instead of the Rodgers versus Brady, it's the 10 versus 10. Jordan Love and Bo Nix. That'd be kind of fun.
That would be. How about this? The 30th anniversary of Super Bowl 25.
Oh.
Ooh.
Or 30th? No. Sorry, more than that. Because let's see, what was that? Super Bowl, was that 25 when we beat the Packers?
32.
32. Excuse me.
You're old, Alec. It's okay.
We'll see that this next season, actually.
97. So let's go 20. Let's go 2027, 2028. Bo versus Jordan in the Super Bowl. That'd be pretty hot.
Broncos country can dream.
We'll see 10 versus 10 next season. Play the Packers.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Real quick, obviously, I know Strez did mention about the college football playoff this weekend, so we could probably briefly mention, that. College football kicks off. That'd be crazy. One of the craziest stats that I think I heard was, that all the bye week teams lost. And so now, you have Ohio State, and I mean, if you don't need to look no further, and obviously we have a Ohio State person obviously in the chat, obviously, unfortunately. But you have to favor Ohio State, right? Specifically with how they've been playing the last two games against Tennessee and and specifically Oregon. Like, I'm not saying that, I may not necessarily be the biggest draft lover, if you will, of Will Howard, but the overall offense, the way the things are constructed, Brandon and Matty and Alec, they're a wagon right now. They're an absolute wagon.
Do you want my logical answer? Or do you want my emotional answer?
Well, first off, we don't need to talk about the Oregon game.
Oh no, that's fine. They got donkey, dude. There's nothing to be mad about. They just got. I told Strez that they have a Kryptonian playing whiteout for him. He's an absolute monster.
Julio Jones 2.0.
Yeah. He should just sit out for the 2027 draft. He just
declare right now.
Yeah, sit still. I think Ohio State's going to run through Texas. They're just too good all around. Texas should have gotten beat by Arizona State last week. That was a hell of a game. But I think what's going to end up happening though is it's going to be the battle of the Big Tens. I think it's going to be Penn State, Ohio State in the title game. And I think James Franklin's finally going to get the dub. That's what I think is going to happen. But
I sense some Ohio.
Okay, that's what I want to happen.
Yeah,
Ohio State's probably going to win this thing. But I want to see future Denver Bronco Tyler Warren hold up a national title trophy. So,
Matty and Brandon, what you feel?
I didn't go first.
Yeah, Brandon's got to think about his answer.
I mean, Ohio State is by far and away the best team left, and honestly, with how they've played, from opening kickoff against Tennessee, the best team in the field. The seeding certainly is going to need to be something that is considered to change next year with how the committee looks at ranking teams and any automatic positions, like Boise being a 3, although they played well, really. Arizona State played well as a 4, like they competed with Texas. I don't have a lot of heartburn there, but it's there's just a lot, like Ohio State being seated 8th because they lost to Oregon and then they didn't play in the Big Ten championship because of the weirdness that was Big Ten football scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And just the elite teams not having to play each other for the most part. Ohio State is just loaded freaking all over the place. It is. They literally are like Ferris Bueller's Day Off driving the Ferrari, and you just try to not make it go off a cliff with all the offensive talent they have. So they're going to own Texas. Ewers is going to make a mistake or two that's going to cost them. Then he's going to go make $6 million playing for some other college next year. It's going to happen. Watch him go to Miami or something like that.
Miami, yeah.
And then, or maybe even Oregon, I've heard is a potential spot.
Look at.
I mean, who knows?
Dante Moore starting there. It's fine.
So
no.
So that, and then on the other side, it's Penn State, Notre Dame. I've been pretty much like Notre Dame's got to prove it to me until otherwise, especially in big games. But I think, man, like as good as Penn State is, like I think that Notre Dame team just plays complementary football.
Yeah.
Riley Leonard is a dude at quarterback, and I think that
he's gotten so much better. Like like beginning of the year, he's gotten way better.
That Northern Illinois game is certainly well in the rearview mirror for them, and they're playing great football right now. I think that they're a much more physical team and more dynamic and balanced than what Boise was. So they're going to do a lot better against Penn State. Warren obviously is a difference maker, but Ohio State over Notre Dame in the championship, and it's going to be a ton of guys drafted from that Ohio State team.
Yeah, Brandon, are you feeling the vibes of Ohio State, or are you looking at this Ohio State team and being like, man, how did they lose to Michigan? Oh, sorry, loud.
All of the above. I'm not that excited, to be honest, for the Ohio State Texas game because I just think that Ohio State's going to absolutely boat race Texas. Like I don't even think it's going to be fun. But
do you think that the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to Ryan Day this whole situation and just completely mismanage and and all the Ryan Day rumors are going to start circulating about how he needs to be fired, and then how the Las Vegas Raiders need to hire Ryan Day as their next head coach?
Sure, that will happen. I can't even joke about that. I'm excited for Notre Dame, Penn State personally. That's the one I'm going to be like paying the most attention to because I'm with you. Like I think Notre Dame is a good football team, and Penn State is actually going to be pretty. I think that's going to be pretty competitive. Yeah. Whereas like Ohio State, Texas, like I don't think Texas really is going to have a shot, to be honest. And like I think it's
they're like the biggest
unfair
pretenders of the entire tournament.
They're like what?
The biggest pretenders of the entire.
The biggest pretenders. Oh yeah, and it's not even just that. It's just like Ohio State is unfairly better than them. It's kind of like a pro team playing against like even Alabama, which everyone wants to always say like, oh, Alabama would beat the worst like NFL team. Like that's not a thing. I just think it's going to be not even close. So Notre Dame, Penn State, I'm super excited to see what's going to happen there. Obviously with Penn State, like the I guess nom de guerre, if you will, of Penn State, or like the thing that everyone wants to talk about, specifically like if you're a Broncos fan, is Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren is like obviously going to be a big factor in that game. But someone specifically I don't think we see talked about enough that I would not mind seeing an orange and blue from Penn State that's not named Tyler Warren is maybe even like Nick Singleton.
Mm-hmm.
He is kind of one half of their rushing attack. The other guy being Katron Allen, who's also like kind of a stud.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a really fun game. And if you're a Broncos fan, like that's not only is that the game that I want to watch because I think it's going to actually be competitive, that's the game that I want to watch because there's two guys in that game that I would not mind seeing my team draft both the positions that we need players in. So that's what I'm going to be focused on. I just think Ohio State is going to boat race Texas. I don't care about what happens in that game because that's just what's going to happen. What if Ohio State, I can't even see, like, I don't even know how to jokingly say what the path is to them losing because I just don't really see what it is. But like,
it's the only way that they're really going to lose is if Will Howard just shits the bed.
Yeah. Like that's literally the only option is
UT has
good.
So UT has athletes across the D line and their corners are studs. They've got also a stud safety. So defensively, they're not awful. It's just offensively, they can be so inconsistent. But I think this is the dumb answer, but it's pretty obvious there. Whichever quarterback plays better, that's who's going to win.
Well, but to me, it's even if Will Howard suddenly like shows up much worse than he's looked all season, honestly, or like at least the playoffs. You're talking about a Texas team that also like probably is going to be like someone you can run against. I mean, Cam Scatabo, obviously, like he's just an absolute monster. But dude almost came back single-handedly to bring Arizona State back in that game, sent it to overtime, and Ohio State has both Henderson and Judkins. Like, even if Will Howard struggles, like I just think they have enough complementary football that they don't have to put everything on his shoulders. I also just think he's playing really well right now, and I don't really see that happening where he's going to like face plant enough to totally lose them that game with the weapons that they can also rely on outside of him. But you never know.
Certainly one way that the Ohio State Buckeyes can lose this game is if clock management is at its all-time worst, and Will Howard decides to slide with no time left against the Oregon Ducks. Some sort of scenario that happened, in 2024. So it could certainly happen because it's now on record of Will Howard actually doing this. So
And to the topic of like the seeding side, I mean, this not to beat the dead horse, but they obviously need to make the rankings the seeds, not automatic bids anymore.
The 12 teams are, I think, the right the right call. I feel like it's just how can we be able to make it so that it's figure out a way where like buys it's like only 2 teams or something like that. But like. And I know it's cool to see the first round being like, or the semifinal being quarterfinal being the Rose Bowl and Fiesta Bowl and everything. But being a near Boise resident, if they had hosted Penn State, that would have been the biggest game in the city's history. That would have been so fun. Penn State, Boise State on that blue field.
Oh man, that would have been dope. That'd have been dope.
That would be crazy. Thank you guys so much for hopping into the chat. It was a pretty lively chat and a fun episode. Of course, it's fun to talk about. The Denver Broncos are playoff bound. They are, gunning for upsetting the Buffalo Bills. And it's an exciting time. It is an exciting time to be a Bronco fan. It's an exciting time for college football. And Alec, I can't thank you enough, man, for hopping on. You are more than welcome to hop on at any point in time and talk about our beloved Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, of course. Thank you so much, man, for hopping on.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And I'll leave it on another baseball movie quote that I love using, similar to how Matty dropped one. Ooh. To quote the great Nuka Lush, winning, it's better than losing. And that's what we did this year.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
That is absolutely
Heck
right.
yeah.
Make sure you follow Brandon over there on X and Twitter. Over there at Brandon Miller PO. You can follow Matty at Matty Mulls Pod over there on Twitter. You can also follow the show handle at Manely Broncos. Again, want to thank everybody for hopping into the chat. Make sure you hit that subscribe button over there on YouTube for the MHRT Network page. We are on Facebook, I believe, so you guys can like us on Facebook, but we are no longer streaming on Facebook. But again, thank you guys so much for hopping in the chat. And hopefully this time on Wednesday, by next week, we are talking about a Denver Broncos upset of the Buffalo Bills, where who knows, we might actually be streaming Matty jumping through a table because of the Denver Broncos victory. Or we might advertise it on our Bo only fans, if you will, our Bonely fans. Thank you guys again for hopping
Frozen one. Yes, sir.
Thank you guys so much for hopping in. And remember,
let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.